This is the third painting in my lavender series. So welcome to Graceful Art Designs if you're a newcomer, and welcome to my returning viewers. I do appreciate all who come and watch my videos and stay to the end, and especially if you can like and comment and subscribe, that will be a great boost to my channel. So I've covered the canvas with white, and I see there are some bits that are not covered over here. I went around twice, but yeah, it's very difficult to see with white. So this painting I'm going to approach differently. It is going to be lavender, but unlike my jacaranda blossom, I'm not going to be, and unlike the previous lavender blossom, I'm going to be painting, well, there's going to be a stalk through the center and then lavenders on each side. So they're not going to be exactly symmetrical, but the blossom will not start at the base of the stem, because the lavender branch, certainly the lavender that I have, I know there are 47 species, but the one that I have in my garden, little window pot, has lavender just at the end of a long thin stalk and leaves at the base of that stalk. So that's what I'm going to do, something similar to that. So this is not going to be the final look of the green, but I just put a little green on the canvas, and with my palette knife I'm just going to spread it along lightly, so as to give me an indication of where my stalk is going to be. And the stalks are actually quite straight, so I think I need to take a bit more. And then there will be leaves coming off here. And so this is a new way of doing leaves. I want them to be very thin leaves, and if I put more paint down and then blow them with a straw, they're going to end up looking quite thick, and that would be fine if I was doing jacaranda leaves, because they are kind of rose shaped, even though they're multiples and they tend to look like fern leaves from a distance. But for these leaves I want them quite thin. So where I'm going to put the blooms or blossoms, just sort of around there. I do want to take a bit more. I need to use the flat of this palette knife without sticking my fingers into the paint. That's a bit better. So I'll be using the same colours, just with one addition, a metallic rose pink, well, it's rose gold actually. Starting with the ultramarine blue, and I'm going to just put it at the tip of this blossom down here. I do want the blue to show through a bit more than it did on my last painting. I'll do one over here, so they won't be exactly opposite each other. And because ultramarine blue is transparent, it's probably going to just be swallowed up by the white, in which case I may add a few more drops in at the end. And so I'll continue, and I'll bring you back when I do the next colour. I added quite a bit more blue, and I took the palette knife and I tried to get it as flat as possible to get more of the green to show, and it did eventually improve the results. So hopefully I won't need to add on or blow any leaves there, because they're quite spiky leaves on the lavender plant. But if I do, then I'll just them around that bit. So now I'm using the lightest ultramarine lavender colour mixture that I made with the paint mixed with white. Now, because they're on the sides of these leaves, they can't be enormous on the lower end here. Next colour is just a dark purple. And then I'm going to put on the rose gold, followed by hypermetallic purple. Two metallics right on top of each other. I don't know if that's a good idea, but this is going to be what it's going to be. Well, I'll blow out the first one. If it doesn't look good, then I might add purple on top of the rose gold. Because if I have the rose gold last, well, I'll just put a very tiny drop of it. Otherwise, the lavender will be rose coloured. Because the last colour you put down is the colour that shows up the most. Well, here goes. Let's see what it turns out. So, starting from the side here. And you can see I didn't put a lot of rose gold there. This one didn't have a bit too much. I just want the blossom to go that way. And that one as well. That's nice. There's some of the blues coming out there. All that blue vanished. I wasn't enamored with the rose gold effect. That doesn't work as well on the purple as it did on my pinks. So I added a bit of pearlescent white over, and then I added some of the ultramarine blue over that. Now I'm going to blow it out and see what that does. Blue and the violet. Just add enough there. entirely happy. I added a bit more pearlescent in some places and a bit more purple over that. And let's blow that out and see what that does. Now with my straw I'm going to just blow a few places into better shapes. The pink might, the rose gold might dry nicely. Certainly got lots of reactions going on here. And I'm going to add a bit of green in here. I think the green here is just too thin in contrast. Then I might swipe it. Yeah, definitely need to add the green. That's how I've added the green with two different colours, two different shades of green. And I'm going to just use the straw to blow this up. I didn't add it in the size because there's enough to blow. At least I thought there was. that looks a whole lot better. So now with my stick, I'm going to just draw a line through this green. Kind of a straight line. I need to blur those a bit more. For sure. And I may come back, in fact I probably will come back and paint away some of the blooms that I didn't like and just separate them. They got too close to each other. They weren't meant to be this big. I carried on blowing too much because of that rose gold. I really wanted to just leave them as they were from the first blow. That would be a perfect way to get the right lavender or jacaranda blossom. But it's okay. I mean, that's the whole beauty of transforming your painting to whatever you want. You can paint away, and if I use white to paint away, as in the other painting, you'll see the other colours will be underneath in the background, and that just adds to the beauty of the painting instead of having stark white. I'll leave it like that. Those are my lines, and I've added a bit more green where I wasn't happy with the amount of green that there was. That looks much nicer. And blowing with the straw really just makes these natural leaf shapes. So this may be an unintentional jacaranda blossom. Definitely this has to be sculpted a bit more, paint that away. And I can definitely put more green here. I wanted to fill up the bottom of the canvas with the leaves, and I've added a bit more of the light green, so I need to blow that in. Couldn't do this without a straw. Well, maybe with a mini blower. What do you think? Should this be a lavender blossom or a branch of jacaranda blossom? Didn't like a lot of things. I didn't like the way the lines were. They were just too thick, and so I blew them away. And I'm going to just leave little lines from the outside to show the petals. And I'm going to put back this line through the center, just to show that this is the stalk with the branches of the leaves coming off. And also just to connect all the flowers together. More than sufficient. when you blow with a straw, it really does form natural markings to indicate petals or leaves. So of course these are blue over the edge, so it's really hard to shape the petals there. I'll have to do that with a paintbrush to make them have a more scalloped edge. Now these are perfect. I mean, don't really need to do much there. So that's where I'll leave it now. I looked at it again and I decided, since I have all these leaves down here, I might as well have some leaves at the top. So I've added some more here. Some more green. Let's see. The canvas is already dry. I'm getting those big boulders again. Oh, I added the blue green mixture. Oh, that's okay. Blue in the sky. Didn't have any of the light green mixture, not enough. Well, I have a little I can scrape out, but adding the extra green to the top has helped me take care of that separation of these blossoms. I might want to do it on all of them, but I don't think so now. I think the paint has already settled there. So I'll just have to paint that in if I need to separate them. But at least it's sort of isolated that one and brought it into focus. It even could still be two blossoms. But I like the effect, so I'll leave it to dry now. I really will. I will stop fiddling. I completely changed my painting. See here, this green didn't fill up, and it just won't now. The paint is dry there. It won't move. So you have to move quickly, because some parts dry quickly and some don't. And you don't want to keep adding too many layers, because then you will have big clumps of paint pooling. So I will resist the temptation and leave it now. The lavender painting dried quite beautifully, and the rose gold which I used and which I eventually only left touches of really has dried beautifully as well. It's given this lovely pink glow, and it really adds a touch of something. Instead of gold or silver, rose gold just has its own magic. So and I think you can see a bit of the pearlescent white shimmering in there as well in the right light. Yeah, you can. So I'm very happy with it, except for the fact that I now want to shape it into something more, because it's actually turned out more almost like the shape of a jacaranda blossom, which is like a tubular shape. And that's not quite the shape of a lavender blossom. Lavender blossom is more, well, I'm going to turn it around and start with the smaller ones. And it has more of a shape with a small blossom at the top, and then they're wide at the bottom, and then they get narrower to the top. So that's what I'm going to try and change it into, and by painting away some of the purple, which is a bit of a shame, but you know, these things have to be done if you want to get a painting to look a certain way. And I hope I don't lose all the rose gold in this process, but again, if I do, it's just going to be the way it is. So that's already forming more or less a good shape. And I'll cover the white afterwards with pale blue to indicate the sky in between. But, because these blossoms are going sideways, I can see the pearlescent white right there. Because it's going sideways, you're not going to see the exact shape. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. And also, obviously, these blossoms are much bigger than an actual lavender blossom would be. Oh, yeah, and I see the pearlescent there. I really don't want to lose all that. So I'm just going to paint away a bit of the white up here. The pink I'm losing there. Just to get that point towards the top. Oh, that's going to have to go as well. Oh dear. And then in addition to that, I'm going to, I love the green, I love the way the leaves have come out, but those are best going to just be the background foliage. I need to add some small sort of sap green leaves, more slightly spiky leaves over that. And I need to put it flat to see what I'm doing. So what I'll do is I'll make this into a couple of blossoms. I think that will look better. So that'll be one. This will be one. And I'll try to make them a bit rounder. So closer to the shape of a lavender. Not exactly, it's definitely not 100%, realistic representation of lavender blossom, but close enough that when you look at it, you can recognize that it is a lavender blossom. And I'm using the same white that I used for pouring. Here's another one that's very big, so I'm going to change it into, I think, 3 or 4 small ones. So that can be one, sort of pointing in that direction. And this will be one here, and then there'll be one here on this side. And of course, there can be overlapping. As I keep saying, the reason I do these paintings, transforming them into something more, is to preserve the beautiful colours that you get only from bloom darts. And here there's some magical blue with the pearlescent white and the rose gold together there. So I'm trying to preserve it, but for a moment I had to suspend my desire to preserve the colours and just try to focus on outlining the shapes of the lavenders so that they're going to look like a lavender shape. So that's what I've done, although some of them are at an angle, but you will still see that that is the lavender shape. So here I need to bring this down a bit more to form the base of the lavender. And the first layer is very light. But you see now, there's a problem there, because I wanted this one wide, but now this one's become very narrow. So I have to wipe that away. Here, it's too narrow down here. They'll just have to be overlapping a little. And then for the final one, over where I've painted the white, I will come back and add in either the leaves or some light blue. I'll see what I'm going to do. Now this lovely big one can again be multiple blossoms, because now I've made the other so much smaller that this one can be smaller as well. And I mean, I could see at least 1, 2, 3. Or maybe I'll just do one long one there and one long one here. I'll separate them. Well, that's how I solved this one. I just made the outline of the petals. I'm going to have to lose some of that blue just to make this a bit, well, I need to wipe this away and make it wider this way. And then that blossom is behind it. So I'll move this away. So at least that reveals a bit more of the blue there. So here I decided I wanted to save all these colours, and I just put a little white to separate them there, and I need to widen the base of this one, so I can do that by adding some purple in there. I can do that with a brush and add a bit of other colours in if I need to make it look more realistic. There's a bit of green there that I can go over or not, just can leave the leaf there. And now with a bit of ultramarine blue added to this white mixture, ultramarine from the pour, I'm just going to go over these white parts. So that's the sky peeping through. And then when that's dry, I will add the leaves everywhere. The leaves will go over these leaves, but not cover them completely. You'll still see them in the background. But just to give the right shape of the lavender leaf. Absolutely love this mixture of the blue. Just the perfect blue. So there, I don't know if I really need to go through here, or if I should just make a darker purple to indicate the separation. I think that's what I'll do. No blue needs to be in there. And then here, so I wanted them to have a round shape, wider to the base. So there again I'll have to add in some purple, although it could be hidden under the leaf. It has to be creative and imaginative and not be too rigid in your thinking when it comes to art. Not everything is perfect, and this is an abstract painting. However realistic I might want it to look, it's going to be an abstract realistic painting. A little of the hypermetallic purple on my brush. I'm just going over this white here, and if it's not dark enough, then I'll have to add the other, as I don't think it is dark enough. Can't even see my own lines. Oh my, oh, where is it? It went there, I think. I definitely need a darker paint, but anyway, so I don't get paint all over my clothes again. Here I can add some of it in between these two. I need to widen this one. I'm kind of just tapping it in. Now with the darker purple, I'm going over that hypermetallic. Let's see where I went. I wanted to save that blue. And so we have one big blossom in the front. Or it's a collection of blossoms, really. I could make them a bit rounder. And this collection in front of that collection, which I can also make a little bit wider at the base here. Just need to thin that out a bit. Got too much paint on my brush. So I cleaned the brush and then lifted away some of that paint. There was way too much there. And now with some of the lighter paint, I'm going to just blend a bit of that in. Again, to make it look a bit more like a natural part of the painting. Just a little, I cleaned off my brush. Now I'll soften it. And then I need to do a little of that over here. And a little over here, where I extended this blossom. So I extended this blossom quite a bit. That one I should have made it narrower, but it's okay, I'll put some leaves over there. And then I extended this one quite a bit this way, and this one. And that's it, I didn't do much more than that. And now with some of the, well, it's an emerald green, I'm going to go over this stalk and getting paint all over my fingers. And then from that stalk, I'm going to add in the leaves, and then I'll go over them with some sap green, which is a softer green. And so here I'm going to bring the stalks up to the leaves, to the blossoms, below the blossoms. So you can see that each blossom does actually have a stalk attached to it. It's a very large blossom, but it's okay. And how was this one going? This was one going this way. And one going that way. One going that way, one going that way. So I'll have to do the, I've taken the wrong, I've taken the sap green. I'll have to be very careful how I do the thin leaves, because I do want them to be very thin. So I'll just show you one when I get to it, and then I'll have to do the rest off camera, because I have to be really careful and shape them nicely. I don't want it to look messy. I need to continue with this green, making sure I get to all the blossoms. don't want to make the video too long, so I know nobody watches all the parts. Well, not nobody, but not many people have time to watch an entire thing. Oh, here's another part of a blossom there that I didn't see, but that's fine. We can have it just coming off from, it's behind that one, so, oh, coming there, and then this one coming from here, and this one is behind there. There's just a bit more green at the base of that one. So let that dry, and then I will add on the actual leaves. These leaves came out such a beautiful colour here, with all those different colours that I added in afterwards. It's a pity to go over them, but I think I just need to. So I'll start down here, because this is possibly dried. And like I said, they have these long, thin, well, they're actually not that long, but I guess for the size of these blossoms, I'm going to have to make them longer. This stalk is going nowhere, it's just... And over this I will add the sap green. And there are a lot of leaves. It's a very leafy plant. So they might go over the flowers. And I'll even add some in between here. Wrong green. In between where there's no flower. Need more leaves there as well. I mean, the flowers, the photos I looked at of lavender, you always see these fields of lavender where there's just endless purple lavender in the distance. You barely see the leaves, but that's unfortunately not the lavender that I got growing in my garden, which is what I'm painting. So kind of sticking to that for this painting. In fact, I'll give you a glimpse of my window garden. My garden downstairs is in my, just a little parking bay that I've added some plants around the edges and some fake grass, just to give it a nicer look and feel, and a place where I feed the cats, street cats, so that they have a little home there. And somewhere I can, keep the things clean, because you can't just... people do, they leave bowls on the street, which get blown away in the wind, plastic bowls and bowls that get dirty. I need to clean the bowls every day. I need to have a place to put them down when I've dished the food out. I like to do it as nicely as possible. And so I've made them their own little spot and a place where I can grow some beautiful roses and some lavender, and I've also got some herbal tea, which is, it's like a gardenia. I think it's a gardenia family, but it's got little purple flowers which are very pretty, but they're so tiny that if I planted them if I painted them you wouldn't even see them. They're that tiny. So I think this is starting to look like something. I probably need to go down here. there's my spiky little lavender. As you can see from the lavender, the flowers on this particular species are very tiny, and it's just a whole lot of leaves. But for purposes of this painting, well, there are a whole lot of leaves, but the lavender flowers are a whole lot bigger. So I just wanted to show the beauty of lavender. So now I'm doing a layer of the sap green over this emerald green. And I think I'll take the leaves out and make them a whole lot bigger. That's the completed painting. I continued adding leaves, adding more layers, more colour, sap green alternating with the emerald green, and then just making the leaves longer, and a little bunch of leaves in front of each blossom, so that just extends the, helps the blossoms to sort of recede a bit and just add some depth to the painting. So I'm happy with it now. And now when the sun comes out for a few seconds, you can see the lovely glow of the rose gold and the pearlescent white. So thank you for watching. Please like and comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and maybe share with someone who you think might be interested in acrylic art and acrylic pours being turned into something more. Bye for now.